So.
You ready? All right. Welcome to Tuesday, March 26th, the Village of Buchanan Board Meeting Workshop. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, first on our workshop is a discussion on proposal for Labella regarding inspections for AMS and the Village Square projects. So you have a presentation for us, sir?
Yeah, so why don't we give you like a little background first? So
Sure.
we got the two projects that got site plan approval, one from the village board, one from the planning board for the public information. During the process, due to complexity of those projects, we discussed having third-party inspections and third-party review of the plans, just to get the process moving forward as well, not to overload the building department. So Peter and Brian did some research. We approved that probably 2 meetings ago, the company to do the plan review. So we did additional more research and we found somebody to do the inspections review. So I would let the Labella maybe present what kind of inspections they normally do, what kind of projects they've done in the past. So whoever wants to talk about that, you can come to the podium or over Zoom, whoever's taking the lead route.
And Marcus, while they come up to the podium, if you could just remind the public, this cost is covered by the developers in both projects, correct?
Yes, part of the building permit fees, like as we've done in other projects, the building permit fee more than cover the cost for this inspections to be done. And just that's another set of eyes to protect the village, to protect the public, and protect the residents of both projects. So wanted to come in to talk about it, especially with the AMS project being as complicated it is with the swimming pool on top of the parking lot with the concrete. I know Anthony has a lot of experience with that. They can describe that information and help everybody feel at ease that the project will be built according to building standards, but also be inspected on a day-to-day basis.
Okay. And before we get started, I just want to also mention that Trustee Wheeler will not be here this evening. And is our attorney Stephanie Porteous, is she on the line?
No.
No, okay. She had this afternoon a death of a very close friend, so she wasn't sure if she'd be on this evening. All right, thank you.
Yes, so my name is David Turiano, and on the Zoom call is Ed Larkin. He's the vice president of Labella Engineering. First part of the question I heard was Labella's experience, and I'm going to let Ed handle that. He's been with the firm a lot longer than I have. He's vice president. He could talk about the caliber of projects that Labella has served in the Westchester County area, Hudson Valley area. And Ed, you're out there. Maybe because I did hear that question.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Dave. And I apologize I can't be there tonight. This came up on short notice, but Dave is a local representative of Labella, has a ton of experience in this industry, so happy he's able to join you today. Labella Associates, we joined Labella 3 years ago from the Chasing Companies, which is a name that's very recognized in the Hudson Valley. We've been doing business in the Hudson Valley as a professional firm for 75 years at the time of our merger with Labella. And our building code and life safety services team has been in business during the last 20 years of that time period. We represent over 24 municipalities across New York State, from small villages to large state agencies like the New York State Office of General Services. Our team now has grown to more than 20 individuals who are dedicated to the service line. Of those 20 plus individuals, 16 are certified New York State code enforcement officials. That's important to us, and we were very happy to see that New York State Department of State in last year put out guidance to municipalities on the ability to use third parties, provided that they have that credential. So we're happy to see that Department of State is acknowledging the value of third parties when properly qualified. In terms of local clients, we work for a number of Westchester and Hudson Valley municipalities, from the city of Rye and the city of New Rochelle, two of our longer standing clients, to the village of Pauling, where we provide full services, and many in between. So I don't want to drone on about our client base and history, but happy to answer any questions about our experience, or we can jump right into, I heard one of the gentlemen reference, the inspections we would perform and the services provided, but that's a brief history of our firm and what we can offer.
All right, so for the project, the AMS project, 148 units, it's a wood frame over a concrete podium construction, 4-story, which is very typical in the industry. Many years ago, New York State Building Code did allow for 4-story wood frame structures, provided that they're fire protected. The concrete podium is what is called in the industry, provides for a fireproofing from the garage level, which is typically at the, which is always at the lower level. And then there's a 3-hour fire separation. And then on top of that concrete podium, they would build the 4 stories of wood frame construction. Very common. The buildings always, top out. The New York State Building Code does not allow any higher. And it's a very, due to economics, it's a type of construction that the developers often choose. So we did submit a proposal. There's 5 phases that we have. As you know, Labella did not do the plan review, but we do anticipate some limited plan review. Well, we didn't see the full set of plans yet. Typically, there's delegated designs whereby the architect of record would do the architectural design. Maybe they're not going to design a feature such as the elevator. That'll be a design build. Maybe or maybe not, they'll do the HVAC system. So there are going to be some sub designs that Labella will take on and do those reviews. And so that's the first phase. If there's any delegated designs, we're there to review them. You do not have to re-engage with the third-party plan review service. Then, of course, there's just building code inspections. That's the meat of the project. We're going to be out there on a regular basis. We anticipate a 14-month construction schedule. I don't know if that was provided to us or not. What was anticipated?
I believe that was calculated off previous projects you had done.
Okay. And then for that, I think we're going to have, I believe it's going to be 3 days a week during that construction, 24 hours a week. That's where we'll just be doing day-by-day inspections with, as Ed mentioned, certified CEO, New York State CEOs. I'm a professional engineer myself, but a lot of times it's either or both. Then there's New York State Building Code has a Chapter 17 that they call special inspections. And what that provides for is that the contractor or the developer or contractor has to hire a specific company, engineering company, to do special inspections. Normally for the, most likely, for the structural components, the concrete components, the steel components, some of the fire stopping components. And with that, Labella will oversee and monitor to make sure that those third-party special inspectors do what they're supposed to do. Concrete cylinders, rebar testing, rebar inspections. If there's any, this building is heavy with concrete and reinforcing steel. They call it review of the rebar detailing drawings. We're there to make sure that the engineer, the third-party special inspector, is doing their job, and that the New York State Code provides for how much concrete testing has to be done for how many trucks, for what frequency of concrete testing has to be performed. And again, so the actual certification of those, the engineer of record will be a delegated, will be a special inspector that, of course, the village has to approve. As part of the project, the developer has to provide a list of all the special inspectors and what they're doing. We'll review that with Peter, make sure that all of the topics are covered, and then we will oversee and manage to make sure that it gets done and that the recorded and that all the documents are filed and neatly packaged up as part of the project. So that's the third phase. Fourth phase is just project coordination, keeping Peter in the loop, keeping the village in the loop, project schedule, project meetings, and the like. Then we have project management, where almost the same. There's some finer details that I missed. And then the last, project manager, I'm sorry, is just Labella's internal, keeping track of things. So those are the 5 phases. It's a lump sum project. And there are some reimbursables. I'm very familiar with this type of construction. My background, I'm a retired building inspector right down the road here for 30 years, village engineer and building inspector. And I recently joined Labella upon retirement. So we, myself did a lot of these inspections. Labella did a whole lot more of these. So if there's any questions for Ed or myself. that we can answer for you.
Yeah, I mean, does anybody else have any questions?
No, I'm just glad that, there's gonna be oversight on the project. We discussed it. It's just, it's too much for our building department to really oversee the whole thing.
Yeah, I understand that. I was in a similar role, and Labella serves communities to cover those peaks. Peter would have to put his,
So you'll have field inspectors out there
oh, yeah,
daily.
field inspectors, we have 24 hours a week during 24 hours
3 days.
weekly for that. Yes.
And you'll be, so the infrastructure connections, you're all up to speed on the code for sewer connections, stormwater connections, water
So the-
connections.
Yes, however, Labella's engagement is limited to the building only.
Okay,
The site plan, I understand, is going to be inspected by others. So
okay.
to the extent that the sewer leaves the building
Mhm.
and that the drainage systems leave the building and water systems leave the building, yes, there will be I assume another inspector or somebody, or of course, we could take on that role.
So you're just doing the footprint.
We're doing the footprint foundation on up. We're happy to look at other features. We'd have to talk separately about that.
Well, we'll have to talk about
Yeah.
that with Peter because we're also going to need somebody to oversee the connections to our infrastructure, as well as the leads out to the street, monitoring the backfill, everything that is done. I mean, sidewalk, you're pouring concrete in the structure as well. You're pouring sidewalks and curb as well. I'm going to need testing on that as well.
Of course,
You know,
there's
you're
there's
gonna need-
wetlands delineation that I saw. You have a very extensive stormwater mitigation system buried in the parking lot. All of that, the water mains,
Mhm.
sewer mains, drainage systems.
You guys are all
drainage.
educated in all of that, though, I would assume. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
all we do.
Yeah, because the outflow for the storm tech system, it's a big system. There's 2 different systems. It's a big system. We're gonna have to stay on top of them. I know that they're gonna have engineers on site as well and inspectors for them as well, but we need checks and balances on that.
Yeah, there is John Myers consultant I see did do the site plan.
Mhm.
They're good at what they do, and there is a SWIP, a stormwater permit for this with New York State. So there's a certain obligation that John Myers consultant has, or they're delegated to do those inspections.
So you guys also could back them up on the SWIP?
We're happy to have that discussion.
The scope of
Included in our
work could be
proposal right
changed.
here is
Hmm?
building only.
Their scope of work could be changed is what I
Yeah,
think you're getting
I
at.
think.
Well, the SWIP is very, it's important.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
important, it's for the environment, for the community. It's important for us to,
No, good point. I think the question is, I think Han Engineering normally does all those inspections, so we haven't got a price from them. So we can get a price from them to do those water sewer connections.
well, I'd like to use this gentleman here. I think he's on
That's the
site.
Discussion, the board will have to have that discussion.
I mean, he's
That'd
on
be a
site.
proposal, Yeah.
We're happy to give a proposal for that
We'll
based
give a
on a lump
proposal,
sum.
we can provide it to the board.
Sure.
Yeah.
And we do have the site plan, and that would include similar scope of work, however, outside the building,
Yeah.
everything that this gentleman hit on. Additional concrete testing, soil bearings. For
Yeah,
the
I mean, you need
foundation,
compaction testing, everything.
Right there.
And as far as the footprint of the building, so you're gonna start from footing up all the way to the truss.
Oh, that is correct. Yeah. Some of those are going to be special inspections. You
Mhm.
mentioned from the footing up to subgrade. There's going to be somebody come out, do the compaction testing. We're going to make sure that it gets done. And there's going to be the concrete footings. Again, there's going to be we're going to oversee to make sure that the special inspector checks all the rebar, checks the forms. When the concrete is placed, make sure that the concrete is the specified, concrete.
So those submittals for the mix, you'll do all the mix for the concrete, the submittals, you'll go over all that with their engineer.
That is correct.
Okay.
That is correct. It's their job to design it and their job to review and approve it, our job to make sure it's getting done when it
Yeah.
comes to the special inspector.
Yeah, because
Yes.
everybody likes to cut corners.
Yeah.
All
the way up through the roof. And then, of course, with our forces, roofing, wood framing, then we have, Ed mentioned, there's I think 15 or 20 CEOs. Code enforcement, many of those specialize in firearm systems, fire sprinkler systems.
Yeah, that's what I
Elevator
was gonna ask you
systems.
next.
Accessibility is big.
Mm.
I see you have some EV charging stations and accessibility, ADA regulations are what we have certain special people that just do those plan review and those inspections. So while most of us are, know a lot about jack of all trades. We have specialists in all those industries right up in the, from here up to the Hudson
So
Valley.
you'll back up the fire suppression, all that, you'll do testing with
Yep.
with Peter, we'll get involved with that.
And then right through commissioning. And then basically start a CO, commissioning, and then, CO, where all the systems, each individual system gets tested, to make sure that it's properly tagged, so to speak, in service, and then certificate of occupancy recommendation,
So the whole ball of wax.
everything. Yep.
And just to put a bow on that, as Dave said, at the end of this project, given the scope of work we provided you, we will provide a letter to Peter, who is the authority having jurisdiction, right? We can be an extension of his resources, but we cannot fill that role. So we will provide a letter to him that the project has been completed in accordance with the plans in the New York State Building Code and is ready for certificate of occupancy. So we will put that in writing, sign it, and that will be provided at the end of the project, all encompassing. So the special inspection reports and the third-party inspections that are available to us, we will use those, but we will ultimately certify the full construction to the AHJ.
Will you also aid in the as-bills and could you put that in your scope too, as the project finishes up and we get as-bills on the exterior of the building? You guys will oversee that as well.
We will review and ensure they're accurate. Yes, the engineer of record is required to provide those. But yes, we will review and ensure that they in both what's visible and not, right? So if there's infrastructure that's buried in walls or below grade that gets moved, we'll document that and ensure that the as-bills accurately reflect that as well.
Yeah, that's where I was getting at, because they'll relocate something, they'll make a field decision and relocate. I want to make sure that you're up to speed with the relocation, so it gets on the as-built where it is.
Yeah, and that goes for the building itself, and then also, should we get involved with the site, for
Yeah.
the site improvements as well.
Mhm.
There's nothing like a good as-built down the road if you need to buy something.
It's very important, very important.
The only document, yes. So unless there's any other questions, we appreciate the opportunity. I'm sorry.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Just one quick question, because I know we brought up you're there for a certain number of hours per week. Do you work out with the contractor? I know Mr. Trustee Capicati brought up truck deliveries for the concrete. They can intermix. Do you work that out to make sure you're there when they pour the concrete?
We could, again, that's a special inspection. All concrete is special inspections, and there's a listing of all the duties of the special inspector, and one of them could be, and I think it is, to witness all pours,
Right.
slum tests and everything. We would oversee that, and we would, endeavor to be there during those critical times. Yes.
Yeah, they're gonna hire a firm to do the concrete sample, the testing, slump test. And
Yes.
when they're doing the pours. I mean, they'll all have tickets for time as material, when it's on the job, how long it's been in the truck. That'll all be dated,
And if there's
documented for
and
us.
given the type of construction with the concrete podium, that'll be some critical time. So
Yes.
LaBella will definitely have a heavy presence, during that time as well.
Yeah, I just want to commend Peter for bringing this firm in. For those who just walked in, this firm will oversee the inspections for both projects, AMS and Carbone, while Peter and his department are very capable of doing it. They are large projects, so it would be able to utilize additional resources. And Peter went out and found this firm, so I commend you for doing that. That's a great, and also it is paid for by the developers, so it is not an additional. So.
Well, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you, Ed.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ed.
Okay, our next item is the outside sewer user fee. Marcus, what do you have?
Yes, for the mayor, the board is very well aware of what's going on. We have, just for the general public, we have 3 users of our sewer system that are outside the village. There's some research, and I actually found that we have a section in the code that covers that. And, we've been going back and forth for a while. So talking to Stephanie, also our prosecutor, they want to make some minor changes to section 155-35 of the village law. So I just want to see if the board would be willing to call for a public hearing. Specifically is to say what the fee structure would be over above the resident use, and also a fine beside the penalty, a fine if they don't pay on time. So just some minor changes on there. The good news is we had 3 users. There was some difficulty having them pay. 2 of them actually started paying. So we're down to 1 that has an issue. So by clearing this up a little bit, we have a way to actually enforce the law on the one user that still refuses to pay. So you just have to clean up the law a little bit. So we'll give you a draft local law, but just call, so the April meeting, just call for a public hearing for May, if that's okay with you guys.
Okay, yeah.
Now,
That'd be good.
that
We'll
would
discuss
fall
that.
under the IMA in any
No.
regard, huh?
No.
And,
So the IMA
I mean, not to fall under the IMA. I know it's not gonna, but the numbers that we use for that,
Mhm.
you couldn't utilize it the same way.
You could, but it's interesting, in our code, it actually says a 30% difference on our code. So we could use the same per se penalty, but I also want to include a fine if they don't pay, because what happens if they don't pay, since the outside users, we have to take them to court. So I want to do a fine on top of that too, to try to penalize them for not paying. So maybe a $200 fine for each month when not paid, to force them to pay. And then, but we have the legal right to actually take them to local court in our code. And then the judge can impose a lien on the property or something like that if we had to. I didn't know we had the law until we found it.
And you said Stephanie was working on that.
Yes,
So we're-
absolutely, yes.
I would imagine you have to define, you'd have to differentiate between this outside sewer user and then those who would
Covered
connect
under IMA.
under the IMA.
Correct, yeah. Mhm. This is everybody outside IMA agreement. IMA agreement is the area of Verplank and Montrose is what we.
It's very specific.
Yes. Mhm. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Stormwater control facility maintenance agreement, the updated form, is that a form that George has, our engineer has?
Yeah, we've been using the form, but we found that in our code, it actually specifies a form that's very old. So we're gonna just replace the old form with the new form.
Okay,
But since our code, you have to, I think you have to, maybe call for a public hearing on that too. I gotta find that from Stephanie. If we have to call for a public hearing, since that form is actually in the village code. So we have to go for a public hearing for that as well.
okay. So we might have scheduling 2 public hearings so far.
Correct.
New rates for certain camp and pool staff. Next to him.
Is that on?
Yep, so,
The recreation supervisor would like to raise the salaries of 4 of her team members. Do you want me to tell you what they are? What the rates are? Okay, so for the director, she would like now $875 a week. Last year, the previous director was making a lot more, so this will be a savings, actually. The art director, she wants to raise from $15 an hour to $16 an hour. The pool director from $22.50 an hour to $24 an hour. And the WSI, $25.50 to $26 an hour. So pretty much the savings of the old director will cover all these costs
Mhm.
in the budget.
All right.
So I'll put that on for the agenda for
Yes,
April.
please, yeah.
Good, thank you.
Okay, the next is raising hourly rate for seasonal highway help, and I know the minimum wage in New York in our area, Westchester and city
Is $16
is
an
16,
hour.
right?
Yeah.
So what do we,
The highway foreman would like
Suggested.
$17 an hour.
Seasonal help wasn't 18?
No, it was 15.
That was the ice skating rink.
right.
Oh,
so, yeah, because we want to be competitive too. We want to have,
Correct.
you know, we
Town of
want to be
Croydon.
able to get.
Hopefully
Town
get
of Croydon's
people.
18. We spoke
Oh,
about
is-
this a year ago. Yep.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
so is everybody good with 17 an hour?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
yeah.
17 or 18, one or the other.
All right, so we are ready for the budget presentation. So this is just a presentation this evening. Next Tuesday is the organizational meeting. Next Wednesday will be our budget. So this is just a generalized, and there'll be more questions and comments next Wednesday.
Absolutely. Before I start the presentation for the general public and the board, I just want to say I take this part of my responsibility very seriously. I said it when I entered the government. My main reason was to be confident and also proud of the budget I present in all my municipalities. Put myself as the taxpayer of that municipality as well. So I want to make sure every dollar is spent accordingly to what the residents expect, and I'll be proud of as a resident to see my tax dollars spent the way it is. So before I start, I want to explain that. And also I try to do a budget message, which will be released in the website as well. Besides the presentation I'm presenting tonight, a budget message, try to detail how I came to the tax rate that I presented to the board tonight and try to put as much detail as possible. So hopefully it answers most of the questions. So with that, I'll just go to my budget presentation and now I'm going to go through some of the issues that I addressed in my budget message. So the first thing, the most important thing everybody asks is what the tax rate increase. The tax rate increase last year was 1.9%. And I described it, that's because the cessation and the pilot was a little higher in that year, so it benefited the village. This year, we actually had a decrease in the cessation fund, and then there was other increases in other expenses, and then we actually had a small decrease in our overall revenues. So we actually see a 5.34% increase this year. The tax rate will be increased by 33.44 cents per thousand. So the average increase is about $146 for a fiscal year, or $12.24 per month. The taxable value increased slightly from last year, which is good news, mainly due to special franchises and building permits. As if you see the building permits reports, you know, the building department has been very busy with building permits, and every little bit helps overall. So they actually gave us $25,000 more just in assessed value for the taxpayers by those building permits.
Marcus.
Oh, sorry. Okay, sorry about that. Is that better? Oh, okay. Hold on a second. Are you getting this? What are you getting this one? Oh, you're not getting what's on the screen right now. Give me a minute. Let me just go all over here. What do you got on your screen now? Okay. Oh, you see the first slide right now?
Yeah.
How about I go like this? Do you see the second slide now?
No.
Okay, I'll go this way then. So I won't go to regular presentation. So overall expenses went up by $256,000. We had a decrease in overall revenue by 0.15%. We had, and then I picked up some major decreases or increases in expenses. So some of the major issues were we had a decrease in summer camp of $35,000 overall from the prior year. Cessation fund went down by $116,000. And then we also had I also to reduce the transfer from the water fund to the general fund. We've been talking about reducing it over time as well. So that's $50,000. I still have $50,000 left in there, but if I hit the other $15,000, it will be a bigger tax rate increase. So I want to slide it in a little bit at a time. So the major decision for the board is the pilot extension. I'll explain that a little bit further later on. And then also, we also want to try to start a replacement program for our water meters. Our water meters were replaced about 6 or 7 years ago. The useful life of the water meters is 10 to 15 years. So same thing as the paving. I don't want things to get so old that now we have to replace everything to get everything on one shot. So to replace the water meters at today's dollars is about $450,000. So what I want to do is put money aside, just like we do for the road repavement, so we can, you know, ease into it and then replace the meters at the right time. There's another municipality, for example, that didn't replace their meters on time, and they started replacing them recently, and the people's water bills exploded because the water meters start working slower, and then they get used to the lower usage, which is not really the real factor. And when they got the higher bills, everybody get upset. So I want to make sure we slide that in so the public will not be negatively affected, and also our revenue would not be affected.
So like having a capital fund for the
Correct.
water replacement.
Exactly, for the water meter replacement. And that includes also the access points, the remote access points, as well as the meter. Exactly. So this is our taxable value. This is the major part of our revenue that comes in. As you can see, we haven't hit the high level back in 2000 and looks like 13 and 14. We've had a constant decrease over the years. A lot of it has to do with tax certiorari's. Really, we don't get that many grievances, small claims, but we mostly get more tax certiorari's for bigger taxpayers. Again, this is just the change in the tax rate over the last years. You can see, I wasn't here in 2006, I guess, and 7. We had a very big increase during those years. So it's been like up and down, a little roller coaster ride. And all due to what happened with, with Holtec over the years, no pilot or taxes coming in. So this slide is more to show where the biggest increases were and the main reasons for the tax rate increases. So, we have an increase in the police salaries and benefits, increase in fire department actual $18,000 increase in their overall budget. Street administration was 20,000, street maintenance was 20,000. We had a decrease in the sewer by 35,000. I looked at historical trends. And if I see that we're not spending the money, I might as well just reduce the budget to actually get to as much actual than in the past. The police, we had an increase in the police retirement. We had an increase in medical insurance, and then we had an increase in the debt service.
How much,
Yes.
with the medical insurance on the family plan, how much per employee did that go up?
I can give you that number.
5,000?
I can give you that. Yeah.
5,000 maybe?
No. It wasn't by 5,000. I'll give you the exact number. Yeah.
Okay, all right, good.
We can have that for you.
And the debt service is the bonding.
Correct. If that service is the bond, exactly. And that's the half of the one half that we discussed, and then next year will be the other half when we actually have to pay the bond that we talked about doing. This is your appropriation by function, which is the general accepted accounting principles, general government support, public safety, health, transportation. You can see general government support is, the offices and the day-to-day operations of the village. Public safety is the biggest piece, which actually includes police, fire, and the building department. Building department is considered public safety as well. And this shows you how the majority of expenses are done. Like I always said, we don't create a product. We actually provide services to our residents. So it's personnel and benefits. That's the biggest piece of the pie to provide the service provided to the general public. Contractual could be everything from gas to chemicals to supplies to equipment. We have a little line for equipment, but day-to-day operations, utilities, expenses on the day-to-day operations. I broke up the public safety like I described it. We have police, fire, and building department, how the public safety budget is broken up a little bit. And then we have wastewater treatment plant, which is I just got to say, this is one of the biggest assets the village has, the sewer treatment plant. As people say, here is the biggest expense is the contractual, which is all the chemicals to run that plant. That's the biggest expense to run that plant is all the chemicals we have to buy to keep it running safe for the DEC regulations. So it's a small expense in personnel services, but mostly it's all the chemicals.
But it's not just chemicals, it's also the firm that.
Yes, that's a small amount. It's like $60,000 or $70,000 we're spending with the firm. The chemicals like in the hundreds of thousands for the chemicals.
And the sludge removal would be
Also,
in the contractual also.
Yeah, I think we spend like 6,000 or 7,000 for Ally. It's like 6,000 or 7,000 a month for Ally. Yes. Yep.
A month?
A month.
67,000 a month?
6,000.
Oh,
6,000 a month. So the biggest issue, like I
That's
said, is the
better.
chemicals. Yeah.
You said 67,000.
No, 6,000. So the biggest issue, but we actually, Todd found working with the DEC, found a different type of chemical we can use actually is cheaper. So that expense is actually go down a little bit at the same time. Medical insurance, as I described it leveled off a little while. As you can see, went down a little bit. It all comes out to how the economy is working out and what the medical bills and what agreements they make with the hospitals and the doctors. So I'm estimating an increase again. Again, they work on a calendar year basis. We work in the fiscal year. So I know from January to December what the bill is going to be. But since we go to a new fiscal year, I have to estimate what the increase would be. I put in a 10% increase just in case. They've been in with between 12 to 8. So it almost ranged right in the middle. Retirement contributions. This is a state mandated plan that we have to give to our employees. It goes up and down on the stock market. Most of the money they get is from investments they do in the stock market. So the better stock market does, the lower the rates. And again, they have to provide a certain percentage above the contributions to make sure people are protected. So again, it's a uncontrollable expense. They give us a bill, we have to pay for it. And that's what happens. So again, they're a different fiscal year than we are, so I have to estimate what the increase of that would be as well. So on the revenue side, actually the revenue stood almost flat, but there was a small reduction in the revenues, $5,471 in revenues went down a little bit. We had a decrease in the lieu of taxes was the pilot for Holtec. But we also had an increase in Holtec payment. That's for the cessation fund. So that between the pilot and the infrastructure, it balances itself out. But if you look further down, the state aid cessation fund went down by $116,000. So that was the biggest hit in our revenue loss. And next year will actually be the worst. And I'll show you that later on. This is just major revenues. The most important thing is the blue line, which is the pilot and the cessation fund. You can see what the pilot used to be and how it's dropped over time. And the infrastructure, it goes up and down, but the cessation fund and the pilot, if you pay attention to it, you can see how that's going down over the last couple of years. Transfer to the general fund from the water. Like I said, we're trying to ease that away. Hopefully one more year and then that'll be totally gone. And then the water fund will stand in the zone, the general fund will stand in the zone. So the water fund will not be subsidized in the general fund anymore. And that's Moody's and Standard & Poor's, the financial advisor, asked us to stop doing that. So one more year and we should be done with that. This is just to give an example how your tax dollars are distributed. Again, we're 1 year in the lag. The school district and the town tax is the current taxes. The village is the projected taxes. So the percentage might change a little bit, but you see the majority, as everybody knows, goes to the school district. The town is a small part, and then the county taxes, which include the refuse tax, is in the county tax as well. So I try to estimate what your overall tax bill would be versus just a percentage. So again, it's an average tax bill. The village tax would be about $2,800, which is the projected tax. The school, the county, and the town is the current taxes that we have. And I got some sample tax bills from certain people who gave me what their taxes look like, so I can actually use the real numbers. This shows you the appropriation versus revenue for the last couple of years. The green line is our revenues. So that's what we talked about our fund balance. We'll get to it later. The last couple of years is where our fund balance have been building up over time. So that way we meet our fund balance policy. And anything above that, you could be used for capital projects, emergencies, any unforeseen circumstance they have to do, or certain project that the village board would like to move forward on. The good news is we're above our fund balance policy, so the village board has some flexibility to use some of that money for certain projects if they wish to. So this shows you, again, our fund balance, 22, 23. The purple line in the middle is where our fund balance policy is going to be. Like we described it, we're about $1.4 million above the fund balance. So now we have flexibility to set priorities in regards to what the village board would like to use some of that money for, and then keep a healthy fund balance for any kind of emergencies. But you can see how we went up and down. It's almost like a curve, like a upside down U. It was like a U. So we went down, we went back up. So the good news is that for financial institutions, we are in very good financial condition for the village right now. And that if we went to a bond, when we go to the bond, it helps us get a better bond rate as well. But we have good credit, and that way they keep the interest rate lower, and that hopefully will save taxpayers money in the near future. Water fund is very interesting. On the water fund, our fund balance really, it looks a little nutty on that one. That's because we lost Holtec. A lot of water was, so we actually decreased overall the budget by almost $1 million because lost, even though we spent, so our budget was $1 million higher when Holtec was around. They're not buying that much water anymore. So the overall, which is good and bad because we're not buying the water. So we're not going into the surcharge. Okay. But at the same time, our revenue came down. The good news is based on our new numbers, we have a much healthier fund balance because we were building a fund balance at a higher number, but our base went down. So that's why our fund balance looks much higher at this point. And that somewhat good news, because we talked about replacing the water meters, we have enough money there to transfer into the capital fund for water meters and not affect the water rates at all. And then the water rates and I'm recommending the water rates when we get there to remain the same for our water rate users, except for one little change for the commercials. And that's on my next slide. So this slide is what the current rates are for the residential and the commercial rates. I'm recommending that we increase the first level, which will be only a couple of $1,000s for the commercial, but leave all the other rates the same. Because I didn't want to do that last year, but I think due to the confusion, it didn't take place because I did recommend a higher rate for the commercial last year.
Speak about that, yeah.
We did speak about it, but something, I don't know what happened. We mixed it up or something like that, talking to Cindy. So I want to put it to where it should be. So by moving that to the 55 for the first 1,000, it's not a big hit at all, but at least you see an impact to the commercial side. And that helps subsidize some of the residential rates at the same time and keep the residential rates level.
The 25,000 for the first 1,000 cubic feet, how is that in comparison to other local municipalities?
I don't know, but I can find out who.
It'd be interesting to see if we're in line with that.
Yeah, no problem. I can pull that out for you. Absolutely. And this page is just what's going to be the overall summary page. It's also in my overall budget, and you're going to see it in the budget message as well. But it shows you, the appropriations, the transfers in, transfers out. It just shows you all the numbers what it comes up to the bottom line of what the tax rate increase is going to be. So so that's my PowerPoint presentation. So I just want to do one more thing, if you don't mind, is I can close that. So my budget message, which I think could be helpful to the general public, to the board, is just describes a little bit of more. I described in words versus graphics. So what I did here, if everybody can read it at your leisure, but the most important thing is describing again that the tax rate increased to 5.34. It would have been 5.90. It wasn't for the changes in the assessable value between the building permits and special franchises. If we did not get that benefit, we would have been at 5.90 versus 5.34. So increase accessible does help decrease taxes for everybody general wide. My concern is the cessation fund. What's the major increase in the expenses, the police appropriations, and some other expenses, and decrease in the revenues. Again, I always go back to the pilot and cessation fund. Those are our biggest revenue sources. So the idea is we focus on that a lot. We will be having a public hearing on April 3rd for the general public to answer the questions. All this will be on the website tomorrow, so people can review it, and I'll be happy to answer any questions at the public hearing or any time before the public hearing. Anybody wants to call me, we can always discuss anything. Everything is based on assumptions because it is all guesswork. So to make sure everybody understands that it's based on my looking at the historical information we had in the past. We did have a decrease in equalization rate, and just for the general public, the equalization rate is set by the state. But the equalization rate also calculates what your assessed value is going to be based on the fair market value. So that rate dropping means that people can file more tax certs, and we do have 3 tax certs pending, which will mean either a refund in next year's budget and also a decrease in taxes. So we have 3 tax certs pending, and then we'll probably have one more. And these tax certs are all commercial. All commercial.
Mm-hmm.
So we definitely have 3 who filed, and next year is the last year for one of the other ones. And I already told that they're going to file as well, but nobody filed for the school district. So we might have another one there as well. So again, it's like every year I try to look forward, and every year, every time you think you might be set, something else happens, which is uncontrollable. So that's bad news, but there's nothing we do about it, but the people have the right to agree their taxes. We had, and what we discussed last year, we had a good year because the retirement rates were lower, health insurance didn't go up that high, and that's why we had a 1.9% increase, and that's why I said everything goes up in cycles. So this year, everything reversed. The good news that the workers' comp premium actually remains flat for a second year in a row, which is good news. But all the other premiums went up. So that's why we had increase in benefits overall for our taxpayers. We had positive indications last year, but they've reversed. That's what part that I want to say there. The assessment roll, I try to break everything up. I just described what the assessment roll is. Like I said, we have some grievances pending, 3, possibly 4 by next year, which we'll know more after they actually file with the court. Describe the appropriations, mainly due to police salary and benefits, increases in other benefits, as well as a reduction in our revenues. And then what I try to do here is just to explain, to give everybody an idea of anything over $5,000, positive or negative. I try that way. If you want to go through the entire budget, you can. But I will try to break up what the major changes were from the last year's adopted budget to this year's adopted budget, so you can go through each one of those items. One interesting, what I try to do is big number. I decreased contingency by $100,000 to try to keep the taxes down as well. I try to do everything I can to keep the taxes down. Well, contingency is the number I think that for a case of emergencies. But since our fund balance is healthy, I felt comfortable reducing contingency. But in case something that unforeseen happens, we have money in fund balance to cover that, and then we have a contingency to fall back on as well. So as your leisure, review these. I'm happy to answer any questions on any of these changes. But I went through the entire budget and try to itemize everything over $5,000, positive or negative. And then what I try to break up so you can see exactly what the changes were by categories of the general accepted accounting principles. But again, you can go back to individual line items in the budget. Revenues, the cessation fund is the biggest decrease. And our cessation fund terminates in 27-28. Is the last year's cessation fund. So that's something we have to be careful about. Next year, the cessation fund go down by 200,000. I mean, the pilot goes down by 200,000. So I got a little chart on that as well. I'm glad the village board adopted a fund balance policy, puts it in better financial position for the future. Then I did the same thing for the revenues. I broke up all the revenue 5,000 higher or lower than 5,000 and broke that up as well. Described where the difference was of $5,000 was a difference in overall revenues, what the tax rate meant. The tax cap, I put that every year. I don't know when we're going to be the tax cap, so I'll throw that in there or anywhere. Some of the things we got to consider too for the future. I like to look forward. The police contract expires in 25, so we have 1 more year left, and then we got to renegotiate. And the Teamsters expire in 27. So that way the general public knows when we'll be facing those issues. Talked a little bit about the retirement system, the tax row again. Talked about that a little bit. The pilot cessation fund. So this chart is very important. It's a quick little thing. You can see each year what the loss is between the cessation fund and the pilot. So 25-26, we're going to be looking at $336,000 decrease. 26-27, I'm sorry, we're going to be looking at a little over $1 million in loss pilot and cessation fund, and then it goes down to 500,000. So you can see these are the 26-27 years is very concerning. So hopefully the board can negotiate a new pilot and we have some certainty in the future. So that's the biggest hit I have to be worried about. Talked about the water fund, as I described it, and self-sustaining fund, and talked about the replacement of the water meters, $450,000. We could put some money aside to cover that as well. Talked about the small increase in the commercial rate just on the first tier. All the other tiers remain the same. That service gave the board a little summary of everything. And I close off by thanking everybody to allow me to do this. And I'm very honored to present a budget to the public and try to do something that people feel comfortable that we're trying to do the right thing on people's taxpayers. And I'm always available to answer any questions and tonight or at the public hearing. So I want to thank everybody for their time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Marcus. What I just want to mention, I have been trying to tie Holtec down for a date for another meeting to discuss the pilot. And as everyone knows, the town, county, and the school district have settled with Holtec. So So I spoke to Pat O'Brien not too long ago about setting up another date, so I'm waiting to hear from them. They've been a little busy in Michigan because they're reopening a nuclear power plant in Michigan. I told them to tell the governor I'm very, very jealous. We are very jealous of New York. So, okay, so I'll let everyone know what dates they have and see who's available to come to that. So yeah, I'd kind of like to absorb this. The public hearing is next week. Do any of the board members have anything right now?
It's just a quick question. One of the numbers I stuck at was the increase on the police officers, the $90,000. If I remember correctly, last year there was a decrease of about the same amount. Can you just explain that?
Yeah, I think that decrease was due to was it because of the police officer?
I believe that's what it was.
Yeah, yeah. I think it was, we had one less police officer or something, and we hired one, but I can get you the exact details on that one.
Yeah, but then if we have one less police officer, then you're paying more overtime, so it kind of doesn't. Yeah, I don't remember that either.
Yeah, I
You
remember.
budgeted it, you had it in the
I
budget.
think what happened was that.
You had it in the budget, you
we
took
lost-
it out and you had to put it back in.
That's what it
Yeah, it
was,
was
yeah.
in the budget.
That's
yeah.
what happened.
Mhm.
I could be wrong, but
But I could double check that. I'll double
Double check.
I remember
because the
that
increase
number.
of 90,000. I'm
Yeah.
just curious,
I remember that discussion.
but I'll be here at the public hearing.
Yep, yeah, I'll definitely check that out.
Any other questions from the board?
Marcus, what year did you start?
2019.
2019? Yeah. I don't, I forgot myself.
You see it in the fund balance.
Yeah, little by little.
And Marcus, the decrease in workers' comp, was that because of our payroll being less?
Not really. It's based on our experience.
So it's
We've
the
had very good
experience mod.
We have
Okay.
very good experience. We've
Yep.
been doing a lot of more training, which also affects our rate as well. We've had recently a couple of injuries. Hopefully, that's not going to affect it. And they're also signing for a 2-year contract, so they give us a discount as well.
Yep.
But our experience has been very, very good.
Yeah, so it's the experience mod that's driving it down.
Exactly.
Would anyone from the audience like to comment on anything that they just saw with the budget? But like I said, next week is the budget hearing, so. No? Okay. Sure.
Amy Simmer for 162 First. Can you just explain to me, like, we're so far above the fund balance in both our funds, like, is our policy and we're so high? Is that just a safety net? Like, I don't understand what that is. And I have 3 questions. Should I
Okay.
ask them all or, and then you can answer?
Let me do each one at a time. So again, the budget is the estimate for the new year.
Mhm.
And I try to do conservative budgeting and see what our actual expenses were versus revenues. And what happened, the department has done a good job staying below budget. And sometimes like the mortgage tax, when interest were low, mortgage tax came in higher as not anticipated, sales tax was higher. So in those years, we actually had a higher fund balance than anticipated based on economics that went on. So the village board adopted about the fund balance policy of anything over 20% of the expenses was where we want to be at. Anything above that can be used for one-time capital expenses. So right now, for the general fund, we're 1.4 million above our fund balance. So the village board can take that funds and do capital improvements throughout the village or do whatever they want to do with it at this point.
So that's amazing. That's
Yes,
awesome.
it is.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so the next question is, can you just explain to me this term you use, tax certorio? or something?
Tax certs.
What
yes.
is that?
So there's 2 different things. You as a homeowner, if you think you're being overassessed or overtaxed, you can file small claims. They're called small claims proceeding. So you come to the village assessor and say, my assessment is too high. You go to grievance, come to grievance night. We hold it every, what's the day we hold it? Every Tuesday?
Third Tuesday.
The third Tuesday. So let's say, for example, there was an increase in your assessment because let's say you added a bathroom or a kitchen or a deck, right? and you get, and they say, okay, your increase in assessment would be, $500 assessment. And then they use the equalization rate to calculate what that really means in today's dollars. And you said, that's more than I actually spent. So you can come to agreement tonight. If the board rejects your application, then you can file small claims. So you will go to a small claims proceeding. A tax certiorari is for commercial. For example, AAA, which is commercial usage, can come in and say, our assessment is too high. They haven't done anything at all. So when the equalization rate drops and you calculate off the assessed value, it gives you what the fair market value is. Okay, so you can say, my property is worth $1 million. But when you do the equalization rate, you do the calculator, it says 1.5. You can say, the village is over assessing me. So then what you do is then you go to a court called tax certiorari. You got to bring appraisals to the court, and the judge can say, you're right, the village has overassessed you, and then the village have to provide you with a refund. And then also your assessment comes down.
Okay, so it's just the corporate side of it versus the.
Correct, corporate side versus
Okay.
individual, yes.
And then my one last question is, I know I hear that our camp is so amazing and we have the new rec person who's gonna make it even more amazing. So I'm just curious, I know people from Croton that talk about our camp. So why are we thinking that the camp fees are gonna go down 35 instead of maybe going up? I'm
Because
just-
even, because when I looked at the last 3 or 4 years
Mhm.
of camp, we've never hit that number. Yes, that's why. So I looked at 3 or 4 year trends, and we've always never hit that number. So hopefully we get more people come in, and hopefully we'll hit a target. But based on the history, again, I have to estimate worst case scenario, because if I estimate too high, we're gonna hit that number, then we're gonna have a deficit. So I don't ever want to hit the village will have a deficit.
So it's just bringing that number back down.
Correct. If she brings it up, then next year I can raise it back up.
Those are my questions.
Oh,
Thank
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What's the story with the water meters?
It's basically just a savings.
No,
I saw
we
your,
just got them replaced.
right. And I don't believe Marcus, it's his intent to replace them anytime soon.
Correct.
It's just a rainy day fund, start building up a balance. So at one time, 5 years, 10 years from now, when they need to be replaced, we have the money
Okay.
available.
'Cause
I saw your,
I'm saying to myself, but,
yeah.
and then they just asked me to take a picture of everything because the engineer needed it and didn't tell the guys that were replacing it that they needed a picture of what's coming in and what's there and all the rest of
And it's
it.
amazing. They were replaced about 6 years ago already.
No,
6 years.
not mine,
Okay,
because I held off. I wasn't gonna get.
maybe not yours,
Neither.
but 6 years. Yeah. So the idea is when they get close to your useful life ending, we can
Right.
start replacing them. But what happens is when they get older, they start running slower. You could be using the same amount of water, but then the reading actually starts slowing down.
But they said that about the old meters that you used to read.
Mhm.
So they haven't corrected that
No,
problem yet?
all meters, when they get older, they start running slower. And so
Oh.
you have to replace them.
Okay.
Yeah, things don't last as long as they used to, because how old, oh my gosh, those meters that were replaced 6 years ago, what were they, like 30 years old or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were, it was time to replace those. All right, good, thank you. I just have a few things this evening. One of them is, for the board, Certainty contacted me. They have available on, Friday, the 12th of April or the 19th to do a tour. So if everyone could get back to me and let me know by Friday which day you're available. And for the next workshop, we are going to have the cell tower people come in to have a discussion about that. Anybody have anything else?
Yeah, I have just something here. I put together a little statement. I just would like to read it off for everybody. Tonight's my last meeting. So I'd just like to start out by thanking the village residents for allowing me the opportunity to serve as a trustee for these past 2 years. As a resident, I watched for many years in disbelief on how this small village was run. I decided to get involved after watching for many years and thinking there's a lot of dysfunction and mismanagement. And I didn't get involved to become a politician, and I certainly had other things I could be working on, but I wanted to disrupt what I saw was a broken environment and try to fix it. And in some ways, even though after tonight, I'm not going to be sitting in the seat, I do think that I did bring to light many issues within the village. And I think I had some impact in a lot of changes that were made in the short 2 years that I've been here that haven't occurred in the last 15 or 20. So to Awilda Baez, I wish you the best of luck. I ask you and the rest of the board here tonight to please don't sit back. Please don't let, one person take over. Please speak up. Please develop your relationships with the administrator, with the attorney, with the staff, and please work, with everyone. Please stay in contact with Holtec. Please work on the pilot. It is important. I'm glad that I did initiate the negotiations for the pilot to get that started. It is important, as you can see with the budget here tonight. So, I could go on all night with different examples and maybe that's the reason why I'm no longer going to be here, but I do insist everyone to please question everything. It's the only way that this village will grow. The village has an amazing and dedicated staff. And, unfortunately, sometimes it takes one person to just, disrupt things. But I thank you all and wish the village only the best going forward. So thank you.
I would just like to thank Steve, and I was very happy when I saw that you were going to run because you're young and you care about the village, and thank you very much, and I wish you well.
Thank you, Mrs. Tangent.
I would like to thank Steve as well. It's been a pleasure working with him. I'm very upset that he is leaving us. He is probably the hardest worker out of all of us. He is insisted on taking on every responsibility, calling me, calling Dan, answering emails, working with Marcus on things, working with Cindy. He took it very serious, and I'm glad that he worked so hard. I learned from him. And I'm looking forward to working with Awilda. I'm sure she brings a different aspect. I'm certain that this board will continue to work. I know I had a negative effect. I congratulated Teresa on her victory. Had no response. But anyway, with that being said, I am a professional and I will continue to fight for this village no matter what. And I will try and work with our administrator and all of the office staff in a positive way. And I want to thank Steve once again. I will miss you here. You did have a very positive impact on this board, and you are right. The youth and is what we need. The world is changing around this village, and change is headed in our direction, and we're not ready for it.
Absolutely. The village just can't continue to run, the way it has been for the past 15 or 20 years. I mean, Marcus, just looking at your presentation, things change. And, just having a different voice, having, different set of eyes is really important moving forward. And working with staff. You have to work with the staff that's here because they're great. So, thank you all.
I'm sorry I didn't receive your congratulations. Dan, did you want to say anything?
Yeah, I just want to echo the same thoughts. I had the pleasure of working Steve. I had no idea who Steve Laker was when I first decided to run. And I can honestly tell you that over the course of the 2 years that I've worked with Steve, I've saw nothing but a professional individual who took this job very serious and had the best interest of the village at heart. And I think Steve's going to stick around, and you'll probably see him at meetings, and he'll still have an active voice. And I'm grateful for that. Again, congratulations to Awilda. We look forward to working with her and moving the village forward. But I think, excuse me, people have hit on, excuse me, the fact that there's change. It's imminent. It's a matter of how we go about that change. So I think we'll make the right decisions and move this village forward. And I look forward to working with everybody for the next 2 years again. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve, for your service to the village. Yeah, I think it's important to start getting more people in the village involved. We have a large group of, a younger group of people that are here. I know we are going to talk about doing some surveys to see what people want going forward in the future. It's a 5-member board, so each member has input into the process. And I do look forward to working with the new board. We have a lot of work to do. I do have a list of things that I thought would, some of the things that the whole board could work on. So I will discuss those next week. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of good work to do here. And I'm hoping that the new board can work together for the benefit of the village. Any other comments? Oh, Eileen, you forgot something, huh?
Well, you were asking me about the budget, so I didn't.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Steve. I've known you a long time.
Yes.
Dating back too far. And it's always been a pleasure. So
Thank
I thank you very much. Stay involved. Keep asking questions. Everybody should ask questions. It makes you curious. And we all have to be curious if we want to stay young. It's 3 things, or at least 2 that I can think of. Did anybody Zoom or go to the quarry committee meeting?
I missed this one. Yeah, I was at the previous one. This one. I
That was
didn't
the
get to.
26th of March. Oh, no, the 20th of March.
I do know the one plan was shot down, from my understanding.
Right. I mean, there's been a lot of stuff on Facebook and all the rest of it, but they did have the presentation from Ginsburg. They did have the presentation from Fabio. There are concerns about Fabio's plans because he seemed not to have the financials that were necessary. So that was one thing. But they do like the plan better than going with a permanent structure of condos and spa and all the rest of it. So it seemed like the residents were okay with that. They will have Cortland Pitch will put a soccer field in pad 2. I didn't realize there were so many pads over there that they're either leasing, selling. I'm not quite sure how that soccer field is going to come in. But it was, to me, it was an important meeting, and Mr. Becker, Dr. Becker, did say this is a tri-village, which I was surprised to hear, a tri-village presentation, and wanted input. Of course, I don't know anybody that was on the board that was from the village or on the committee, but be that what it may. I think it is important that we stay in tune with that. Fabio will do septic, not connect to the sewer, just so that's, a difference. I don't know how he's going to do that over there, but be that what it may. And it's a very unique set of plans. Talking about, if you want to watch the recording, it's on the town of Cortland. But he proposed in the quarry a walkway leading to a stage, and then on the water, in front of the stage is the bleachers or seats for the amphitheater, 2,000. And what he wants to do is he wants to boat people up from the south and down from the north. Now, I don't know how that includes people in the tri-village or the county or anything else, but that's what he presented. Plus, like Lionsgate, is it down in Yonkers?
It's in
Where's
Yonkers.
Okay,
Yeah, we had a
that's
meeting
what
there
he's
last
also
month.
projecting. There's 2 ovals in his plans, and those will be for digital, high-tech entertainment, whatever they're going to do with all that stuff. It looked like parking when I first saw it, but it wasn't. It was high-tech engineering and entertainers coming in to work. So that's the project. He would also keep a lot of trees and everything, and walking path and whatever.
It's an interesting proposal.
But it's on the town of Cortland, because I called up to find out if it was a Zoom or you had to go. It was on Zoom.
And I think he's also somehow involved with Live Nation. So if there's, any type of a concert venue. He's.
Yeah, I don't know how this is gonna play. God bless you,
Thank you.
Anthony.
Thank you.
I don't know how this is gonna play against the Paramount because it's also seasonal. And someone did question that, you're only gonna be open well, he claims 8 months. I don't know how that's gonna work in the cooler weather. I wouldn't want to be out there April 1st, but it's, or on the river in a boat for an hour riding up from the south or down from the north. But it was a very intriguing plan. I wanted to know, it evidently D&M Electric disconnected the A&S system over at Holtec. The sirens, March 15th. I happened to see that on the Peekskill Herald on the computer, a digital paper. Is there any reason we weren't informed? That's one question. The second question is, does it make a difference if those sirens are there, even though you have spent fuel in concrete? Or what could go wrong? I'm just wondering, is there anything that can go wrong that the system should be in place or not?
It goes according to the NRC, so there's different scale downs. So once the fuel was on the pad, it's considered a lower risk.
Right.
So this was something that had gone on in the decommissioning oversight board meetings, and there was a discussion on that.
Okay.
And whatever facility throughout the country, once the fuel's on the pad, it's a lower risk, so they can eliminate the sirens.
Okay, so that got eliminated starting the March 15th.
Why, you missed those sirens already?
Pardon me?
You missed those sirens already?
Well, I missed a notification that there's a siren going off. Also, would we qualify for the EPA Climate Pollution Reduction Grant?
I would have to look at the details on it, but a lot of these grants are job creation or to lower income communities, but.
No, this is to lower the carbon footprint. So I'm not quite sure if,
I can look
there was
into it.
a way, but it was the EPA Climate Pollution Reduction Grant.
Well, we would have to show that
Well, it's putting, reducing the carbon footprint on buildings or, whether it be
vehicles.
the highway, whether it be here, whether it be, whatever you have available.
You'd be minimizing the
question.
gas usage in all the buildings and all the structures. That's what it would become down. Everything would run electrically.
for solar.
Right.
We are a gas village.
Yeah, but that was just something. Okay,
All
that's
right,
it.
thanks, Eileen.
Thank you.
Okay, if there's nothing else, I'd like to make a motion to close the meeting. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
All in favor?
Right.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.